What's going on, everyone? Ricardo Luizon here, and welcome to Leave Your Mark, from pain points to legacy. And so today we're talking about part two, and the title is Becoming a Person of Significance. Now, thank you so much for everyone that showed so much support in part one. Make sure you go back and watch it so this can make sense, okay? Even though it is going to make sense, on its own, okay? And so the title of today, of the topic today, is Becoming a Person of Significance. And again, my objective and assignment for this series is to lean in and unpack the idea and concept of pain points. And then I want to give you some context and strategy on how to leave your mark on people, places, and things everywhere you go. So long after you're gone, future generations will know that you existed, and that's because you left your mark, okay? So today in part two, we're talking about becoming a person of significance. And becoming a person of significance is so important because, firstly, according to Genesis 1:26, God created us in his likeness and image, okay? In his likeness and image. And so, in other words, we're triune beings, right? And we're made of body, soul, and spirit, right? He's Father, Son, and Spirit, but we're made of body, soul, and spirit. So we're triune beings, and we are not our bodies, right? But we are a soul with a spirit that lives within a body. So we're triune beings, and we're also made as individuals, okay? And no two people are alike. We all have an individual identity, a personal purpose, a directional calling to complete to complete conditional assignments. With our tags, right? Our intentional tags, what I call our intentional tags. And those are our talents and our abilities and our giftings and our skills. And so you can learn more about that, those five aspects, in my book, Becoming an Authentic Cat. You can get a copy at ricardoluizon.com, and you can catch all the information during our commercial break, okay? And so we're triune beings, and we're all made individuals to be a reflection of God. Not only did he create us like him, but he put a part of himself within us. And so that happened when he breathed his breath into us, his spirit. It was his spirit, his energy, his vitality. It was his way of thinking and processing. It was his capacity for understanding and for leadership. When he breathed his breath of life, his spirit, it was his love and his compassion for humanity, his capacity for humanity. He breathed life. It was life, right? He breathed life into us. And not only was him breathing life into us significant, but it made us significant, right? It put the seed of significance inside of us. And like every seed, our significance needs to be developed. It needs to be processed, and it needs to be cultivated so we can realize it and manifest it, okay? And so what is significance? Significance is a noun, and so there's several meanings and aspects of the word. And so the first definition is something that is conveyed as a meaning, often obscurely or indirectly, or the quality of having meaning. And so, in other words, something that has meaning, but it's subtle, it's dim, it's not overly obvious, right? It's hidden and it's behind the scenes. And in order to get the meaning, a level of work has to be done, whether it's seeking or searching or asking questions, but the meaning is not clear and it's not obvious. For example, when I have a first-time guest, I give them a tour, and all throughout my home, I have all of my original artwork, right? And so in my bedroom, I have a specific piece, which is actually my largest piece, and people always ask me, what is the significance of this painting? Why is this one in your bedroom? Because it's actually the only piece that I have in my bedroom, the only piece of my artwork. And so there must be some significance, some meaning that isn't clearly obvious as to the reasoning of why this is here. You all get what I'm saying? Why this is here. So how many of us, have asked ourselves the question, why am I here? What is the significance of my life here on earth? In this geographical location, born into this family I was born into, raised in the environment that I was raised in. What is the significance? What is the reason and meaning? Because it's not always clear or obvious to us. But know that because you are here, I want you to hear this. You are here. There is significance for your existence, okay? You are not a mistake, and it doesn't matter how you got here. The important thing is that you are here, okay? That's all that is important, is that you are here. And so the second definition of significance, it's the quality of being important or having importance, which means there's also a value add component. It means that things get better, value increases, things go to another level. It means that there is a vital role in the success and the progression or advancement of people, places, and things. So significance is defined as having meaning and having importance. Significance, from the Latin word, significantia, right? Significantia means force or energy. It means expressive or expression. And so your significance is directly connected to your force or your life force. Is directly connected to your energy, which is your spirit, right? Your energy. I consider the Spirit of God the energy of God. And so a spirit is immaterial and it's invisible, so you can't see it with your natural eye, but you can see the result of it, or you can see its expression. You ever hear someone say you have the spirit of your mother, or you have your father's spirit? Well, they're actually saying that you're manifesting their ways and movements. They're saying that you have their mannerisms. They're saying that you have their expression and their character or characteristics. So significance is having meaning and importance, as well as having force, having energy, or having spirit. In other words, without actually doing anything at this exact and precise moment, if you're alive, you are significant. Okay, if you are alive, you are significant. So I want you to say to yourself, I am significant. Okay, and so what does it mean to be a person of significance? And I want to kind of lean into this for a moment. Being a person of significance means, in other words, living with meaning and a sense of purpose. It means understanding who you are. It means knowing your ecosystem. Listen to this: knowing your ecosystem, which is what your life means in relation to the people, places, and things in your sphere of influence. Okay, when I say knowing your ecosystem, I'm talking about knowing what your life means in relation to the people, places, and things that are in your sphere of influence. Okay, because that's what the word ecosystem means. It talks about the relationship between an organism and its environment. Okay, and so being a person of importance is about understanding how important you are to the world and what roles you play in the world. Okay, it's not about wanting to be important or popular, even though it might bring you a level of popularity, but it's understanding your importance because of the presence and the value you bring to people, places, and things everywhere you go. Okay, so understanding your contribution to individuals and to groups and to family and to community and to nations and to systems and to industries and to institutions and to kingdoms and to the world at large. That's what it means to be a person of importance, to be a person of significance, okay? You play a vitally important role in the advancement of our world, in the success of the human race, in the unfolding of the will of God for humanity. And so now, if you break up the word significance, it says sign if I can. SIGNIFICAN, right? Sign if I can, which means you become a sign to those who are asking if I can. Can I be successful after experiencing failure? Can I be healed after experiencing sickness? Can I give and add value to lives after I've taken so much away from so many? Can I hear yes after so many no's? Can I finally do something right after doing so much wrong? Can I still produce anything though it seems like my time has passed? Woo! Can I start again even though I stopped? Can I keep going even though I want to give up? Can I believe again even though I lost my faith? Can I be forgiven even though I made a bad decision? Can I actually achieve any of what I see when I know so many who haven't? Is any of this even possible? See, this is why your life and your steps, big and small, are significant, because people get to see that it's possible. Your life becomes a display. You know, I used to work in retail and we had countertop displays. We had point of purchase displays. You ever been to a jewelry store and you see all the jewelry is on display so you can see what it looks like? Well, that's what our lives become. Our lives become a display so people can see, right? It says sign if I can. We become a sign or a display that people can, that you can. And so being a person of significance also means to, and this is my favorite aspect, it means to take up space in the world, okay? And so in Genesis 1:28, God said, be fruitful, which means to produce from your spirit, from your energy, and from your life force, right? Produce from within. And then he said, multiply it. Not only produce, but now multiply it. And so that means to reproduce it. It means to spread and to share it. It means to take up space in the world. It means to be a force in the world. It means to have representation in the world. Ah, that's good. It means to have representation in the world, to take up space. And so, what does your presence mean? And this is a question I want you to ask yourself, and I ask myself this all the time. What does your presence mean? What does your presence mean to the people, places, and things that you're impacting? What do you bring with you when you show up? And what do you leave behind after you're gone? What are you leaving behind, and how are you printing or leaving your mark on the world? Okay, so let's take a quick commercial break and I'll be right back. So for those of you who do not know, which probably means you're not on this planet, you're not from Earth. So I wrote a book that I am really excited about. And I wrote the book a few years ago, and it's entitled Becoming an Authentic Cat: 5 Keys to Unlocking the Real You. And so this book, in this book, I talk about 5 keys, which are identity and purpose and calling and assignment and your tags. And these are all the elements that everything that I speak about, or even how I live, is based around these 5 principles, these 5 elements, these 5 keys. And so I want you to go to my website and purchase a copy of the book, Becoming an Authentic Cat. If you don't have it, purchase your hard copy because there's some good news. I am going to be releasing a course that will go along with the book. And so this course is going to be launched at the end of this series, Leave Your Mark. And you're going to get a PDF version along with the course. But I want you to get a head start in reading, okay? So I want you to go purchase the book. It's only $12. Go to ricardoluazon.com, get the book so you can be ahead of the class, because I know you're gonna come join the course. And even the course is going to be great. You're going to have videos, you're going to have materials. We're going to do Zoom rooms where we can respond to each chapter of the book. It's going to be so good. I'm so excited to do life with you guys. And yeah, so go right now to ricardoluazon.com and get the book, okay? Get ahead of the game. It's going to be crazy. Can't wait to do life with you. Peace. All right, so welcome back. So the question is, as a person of significance, what am I leaving behind, or how am I leaving my mark or print on the world. So I want to introduce you to a concept that I call printing, and it's based on the idea and the question, what do I bring when I show up, and what do I leave behind when I'm gone? And it's about having a presence in the world and taking up space and leaving your mark. Okay, and so there are 5 impressions that you can make that will allow you to leave your mark. And so again, so long after you're gone from a place or a person or a thing, people will know that you existed. Okay, and so these 5 impressions are this. There's 5. Okay, so it's your fingerprint, it's your handprint, it's your footprint, it's your voice print, and it is your life print. Okay, I'm going to say it again. This is so exciting. I love it. It is your fingerprint, your handprint, your footprint, your voice print, and your life print. Okay, so we're talking about taking up space and leaving your print. And so your fingerprint is the first that I want to deal with. And so your fingerprint, by biological definition, is comprised of tiny ridges and lines on your finger. And these ridges and lines, they create patterns and curves and worlds that are unique to each and every human being, okay? And so our fingerprints are unique. And what's so amazing is that our fingerprint is so unique to who we are that not one pattern has been repeated in humans past, present, and future. Okay, so no one will ever have your unique fingerprint. Think of all of the people that have been, since Adam, right? Everyone that has existed since Adam, none of those people ever had a print that has been repeated. All of the people that are living in the world now, no one has the same print. And all of the people that have yet to exist in the future will never have a repeat of a fingerprint. That's amazing. That's how awesome God is, right? And so our fingerprint represents our identity. And so it identifies or can be used to identify who we are. And in forensic science, fingerprints are used to identify individuals at the scene of a crime. They can do this because on a molecular level, your fingerprint is what you leave behind when you touch something. And that's because of the sweat and the oil that our body produces. And so there was one case that I was studying where 3 individuals were suspects in a murder. And so there were 2 sets of fingerprints found, but they were really old and they were only partial. So it made it difficult for the detectives to identify the murderer, okay? And some of them kind of crossed on one another, so it was hard for them to identify. But scientifically, we've become so advanced that they were able to study the fingerprints, and through technology, they were able to dissect the layers of the print to physical, chemical, and genetic. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like, it's crazy. They were able to trace the chemicals from the oils in the fingerprints to those chemicals, and those chemicals, they were able to show traces of drugs and alcohol that were and prescription drugs and prescription medication, right? So they were able to find those traces in the oils, in the chemicals of the fingerprint. And that's so interesting. So they looked into the files and they saw that out of the 3, 2 of the suspects had a history of substance abuse. Okay, but one had a history of severe clinical depression and was on medication, which allowed them to pinpoint the identity of the murderer. Now it just blew my mind. Like the way that technology has advanced, that blew my mind. They were able to tell what was inside of the individuals by what came out. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So our fingerprints, they carry information. They carry information about who we are, about what's on the inside, about what's happening chemically within our bodies and what we ingest, all from what we touch. All of this can be learned from what we touch. We literally leave tracks of who we are everywhere that we go, every time we touch something or someone, okay? We leave our tracks everywhere that we go. And so even in the Bible, the finger of God represents God's divine authorship and direction. In genetics, within our DNA, is our genetic code. And this genetic code can be read like a book. And it literally tells the story of who we are and what we're made of and what's happening in our bodies. We're literally living and walking epistles read among men, okay? And so the fingerprint represents authenticity. It represents our authenticity. It authenticates us. Excuse me. And it represents our personal brand. Okay, so it represents our authenticity and our personal brand. And so there's a story in the scripture, in the Gospels in particular, where there was a woman who was caught in adultery. And society had written her off and they were about to stone her. But Jesus, who was so dope, so wise, he knelt to the ground and with his finger, he wrote in the dirt. Now, we don't know exactly what he wrote, but what I do know is that it signified him rewriting her story. Rebranding her image. It was him using the finger of God to change the course of her life and give her a second chance at life. Okay, and so our fingerprint represents our identity. It represents our character. It represents our personal brand. It tells the story of who we are. It's our personal stamp or signet. Okay, and so as we live our lives, it's the unique way that we present ourselves everywhere that we go. So this is the first way, okay? This is the first way that you can leave your mark or take up space in the world, by knowing and understanding your individual identity and bringing the best of who you are everywhere you go. You're leaving your fingerprint as you touch and encounter lives, because someone needs to encounter who you are. Okay? Someone needs to encounter who you are. So the second impression you can leave is your handprint. Okay, while the fingerprint represents your individual identity and who you are, your handprint represents your personal purpose and what you're here to do. I love this one. It represents your power. It represents your might. It represents your ability, your generosity. It represents your hospitality, your work, and your ability to produce. It represents what you create and what you make. And so biblically, the right hand represents mercy and the left hand represents justice. So it's how we execute and handle people, situations, and circumstances. Our handprint, it represents the reaching and the moving forward into breakthroughs. Just like in part one of the series, we spoke about the woman who had the issue of blood. And the scripture says that she pressed forward to touch the hem of his garment. And that also represented breakthroughs, a medical breakthrough, okay? And so the handprint represents medical breakthroughs and scientific breakthroughs and social breakthroughs. It represents the development of new systems and building of new models. It represents the impact that we have on governments and educational structures. It's how we serve who we are called to serve wherever we're serving them, right? It's how we serve who we are called to serve wherever we're serving them. And so whether it's in the slums of Calcutta like Mother Teresa, or on the front lines of the civil rights activism or the civil rights movement like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., or in the advancement of space and interplanetary exploration and discovery like Elon Musk, right? Your handprint is assigned to a purpose and to a work. Okay, your handprint is assigned to a purpose and it is assigned to a work. And when you understand that the work is or what the work is and who those people, places, and things are, you can use your hands to fulfill that purpose and to leave your mark or handprint in that way. Okay, and so we have our fingerprint, we have our handprint, and now we have our footprint. Okay, we have our footprint, and our footprint is the third impression that we can make, and it represents our directional calling. And so the fingerprint represents our individual identity, and the handprint represents our personal purpose, but the footprint represents our directional calling. And so God is omnipresent, which means that he's everywhere at the same time. And he's at my beginning and my end at the same time. Okay. Literally, he's at our beginning and our end at the same time. And so as it pertains to our directional calling, I believe that God is at the finish line of our life and our destiny. And he's at the finish line, and he's calling us back towards himself. He's calling us towards himself. In other words, he's literally coaching and calling us while we're living our lives, right? As we're moving towards him, we're taking steps and making tracks on the road and a course. Okay, we're taking steps and we're making tracks on a road, on a course, and on our journey. That's why we call it our life's journey. And this journey brings us through an industry. It brings us through a field, through a system. Okay. And so now as we journey, there's several things that are happening. Okay. Because again, he is calling us, right? God is at the end and he is calling us towards him. And the journey that we take leads us through an industry, a field, and a system. Okay. And so there's several things that are happening as we are journeying towards him through this road or through this field or industry or system. So number one, we're mobilized. And so we are on the move and we're making advancements and strides and progress. And so we aren't lame or crippled by society, by our experience or our culture, right? Because we're moving, it's a sign that we're not crippled. Okay, we're not crippled by society, we're not crippled by culture, we're not crippled by our experiences, right? And also because we're moving, it means that we're not immature or underdeveloped, okay? Because we're moving. And if you know anything about a baby that hasn't been developed or it hasn't matured, that baby doesn't walk, that baby crawls, okay? So the fact that we are walking and leaving footprints, it shows, okay, we're mobilized, okay, we're mobilized. And so there's a lot of people who are not mobilized, who are immobile, and they might not understand their calling. They might not understand where they should be going. They may not hear the call or the direction, and that's why you need to get the book. There we go, because we talk about that. Okay, so the first thing is that we're mobilized. Okay, the second thing that's happening as we are leaving our footprint or as we're moving in the direction of our calling is that as we're being mobilized, we're leaving impressions or dents in the ground and in the places where we are. In other words, we're making impact everywhere we step, within an industry, within an institution, a system, in a field. Okay. And so, I want you to visualize as you're moving in the direction of your calling, with every step, you're leaving an imprint. You're making a mark, okay? And everywhere that you go, you're leaving an imprint. You're leaving a mark. You're leaving a part of yourself. We're leaving our footprint. And so the third thing that's happening is that not only are we leaving our footprint, but wherever we go, right? Now we're causing tracks. Right? We're causing tracks, and we're tracking residue of where we came from. So wherever we're going, we're beginning to track residue of where we came from, what we came through. So we have our, okay, I want to move on to the next one because I'm not going to lean too deep in, but in the course that I'm going to be releasing, I'll get to go a little bit deeper. But just remember that as we are mobilized and as we're moving, our footprints, and I want to do this right. Our footprints are leaving imprints, and then we're also causing tracks. So in those tracks, people can tell where we came from. People can recognize our experiences and the value that we're bringing, right? Or the things that we're bringing in that are messy. Because, you go into a house and your mother's like, it's raining outside. Don't track that mud in this house. Take them shoes off, right? And so, again, our footprints leave tracks. And that is another way that we leave our mark. That's another way that people can recognize who we are and where we've been, okay? And so we have our fingerprint, we have our handprint, we have our footprint, but now we have our voice print. And our voice print is the fourth impression we can make, and it represents our conditional assignments. Okay, our voice print represents our conditional assignments. And so voice printing is about what you say. What did you bring to life? What did you breathe into? The scripture says that God breathed into us the breath of life. It also says that death and life are in the power of the tongue. So how are you using the tool of your tongue? Are you using it to tear people down or to build people up? Are you using it to empower or to manipulate? What causes have you contributed to or lent your voice to? What did you give your energy or your spirit to? What are you investing your words, and how are you using your influence? Right, we're talking about voice printing. One of the most powerful things about voice printing is how it affects molecules, because molecules have memory. So as we speak, we can literally change the molecular structure of a thing at its most fundamental level. Okay, have you ever heard the story of the experiment with the two containers of rice, where the individual over a period of time spoke positive words to one and negative to the other. And at the end of the experiment, the rice that received the positive words was healthy, and the one that received the negative words started to change color and to turn black. And so it's the same principle we use with animals. It's the same principle we use with humans, right? With animals, we can say one word and they get happy. We can say another word and they attack. We can say another word and they sit, because we are voice printing, right? We're voice printing. And they recognize the voice. They recognize the words. With human beings, you can say something and it can change their whole mood for the better or for the worse. One word can trigger an emotion from the past, okay? And one word can give hope for the future. Our words are truly powerful. Our words are so powerful. Voice printing and voice activation isn't new technology, okay? Voice printing and voice activation is not new technology, okay? Siri and Alexa, they were programmed to recognize your voice. But God programmed everything on the earth to respond to the sound of your voice as well. Okay, everything from molecules to money are voice printed, right? To respond to the sound of your voice. Okay, that's why Jesus was able to turn water into wine. That's why he was able to speak to the storm and it ceased. He was able to curse the fig tree and it dried up. He was able to speak to Lazarus, who was dead for 3 days, and he rose from the dead. These things didn't only happen thousands of years ago, but they're happening today. Okay, and so God is literally created the earth to respond to the sound of our voice. Okay, and so how many times have you said something to an individual and it has lifted their spirits or it brought them down, right? You give them a word of encouragement and it changes their whole attitude. It changes their persona. It changes the climate and the atmosphere over their life, right? You might have been going through or going the wrong direction, right? And someone gives you a word of direction and it changes your course. Or you might have been misinformed about something and someone gives you a word of understanding and it gave you the knowledge and assurance that you needed in order to make better decisions. See, our words are so powerful. Our words are so powerful. So every word that we speak, or with every word that we speak, we are creating and shaping and voice printing our future. And not only our future, but the future of other individuals, okay? And so what we say to people, to places, and to things literally imprints itself into their mind and into atmospheres. And so some of us, can remember the voice of a loved one who passed away. Why is that? Because they voice printed us. We remember their voice. We remember what they sound like. Okay, they left their mark, they left their impression on us. Have you ever got a song stuck in your head? Right, you've been voice printed because that song is now in your head and you can't get it out. You have been voice printed. It has left an impression, it has left a mark in your head. Some of us battle with word curses spoken to us as children. You'll never be anything, you're ugly, you're a failure, you're dumb. That is voice printing. People have said things to you that have literally imprinted itself on your spirit, imprinted itself in your mind, to the point where you now become that thing that they said. You now become and believe what they said that you would become, right? They voice printed you. So that's the power of the voice. It has the ability to leave a mark and an impression, and it can shape and reshape someone's destiny. It can shape and reshape a destiny of an individual. It can start and end wars. It can cause things and people to grow and to die. It can build up and it can tear down, and it can move forward and it can pull backwards. We are powerful. We are so powerful, so powerful. We are powerful beings, and we were created with significance to leave our mark on this world so future generations would know that we were here. So your fingerprint represents your identity, and it's important because whatever you touch, you leave your mark on, and whatever is in you comes through your fingerprint. Your handprint represents your purpose, and it's important because whatever you handle, you leave your mark on, and whatever you handled before can potentially rub off on what you're handling now. Your footprint represents your calling, and it's important because whatever you or wherever you go, you leave your mark and you make tracks wherever you go, right? And so as you journey, your tracks or your footprints will tell the story of where you came from and what your experiences were. And so it's so important to understand that you can leave your mark by leaving your footprint. Okay? Your voice print, it represents your assignments. And it's important because whatever you say has the potential to change molecular structures, attitudes, and environments. And the words that we speak, they indicate our mindset and our mind frame. They represent and indicate our paradigm, our worldview. Okay? And so the final impression, I'm going to talk about that in part 3 of the series, and that is entitled Leaning into Legacy, okay? And so for now, I'll let you go so you can digest and process what you've just heard. I know it's a lot, I know it can be heavy, but we're stretching, we're building capacity because we want to leave our mark on this world, okay? And so I just want to say thank you again for joining me tonight. I hope this was a blessing to you. You were able to get something from it, and we're not done because we will be back with part 3 of Leave Your Mark from Pain Points to Legacy. This is Ricardo Luizan. I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us. Peace.